Good afternoon. I've been dragging my butt a little bit. This is going to be a continuation of Bible study. Um, Last time we went through Genesis 1 and into Genesis chapter 2, and we ended on chapter 2, verse 4. And the important messages from the first part of Genesis were several. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Now, I also mentioned Tagalog, which was the Filipino bird, as well as the name for their language, and that was in their tradition is how the earth was formed. So I'm going to move ahead here to the book of John. Now, this has been my favorite book in the Bible. Till I started reading the whole Bible and the Old Testament and the apocryphal books. But I started this book many times because it's after my own name. I know that sounds corny, but it is. So I just want to read this because this is the New Testament version of the creation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lights every man that comes into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came to his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. Notice the similarities. We start off with the word, vibration, music, energy, light, sound. And then we start off here with the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And we have the old myth of a bird hovering over the waters. Okay, let's take it out there a little bit. Maybe it was a spacecraft. Maybe it hovered over the waters and started doing the work on the earth that was necessary. By the way, the man, John, was actually John the Baptist. That's who's referred to here. And it was John the Apostle who wrote this book, who became the beloved, who wrote the book of Revelations. He was the younger man, and a lot happened with him. That's all important stuff. So I just want you to understand that the beginnings and the stories aren't that far apart. Why do we want to deny their tradition? A bird hovering over the waters? I kind of like that one. Now, the next most important thing of this chapter was the kind after kind, where God, ordered these species to multiply, to be fruitful and multiply, and to recreate their own kind. That's an important principle. And probably more important than that was in each one of these days, each one of these steps, God said it was good, which means he loved it the way he created it. He made it good. Something did spoil it. And when we come to verse 4, And basically, in other versions of the Bible, like the original King James, it makes it very clear that this book is a story about the generations in the heavens and on the earth. Generations means mortals. People live and die in the heavens. So we do have life off the planet Earth. Aliens? Angels? So that's pretty important. So now with that in mind, I'm going to move ahead. That's the old business. I'm going to move ahead. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field, before it grew, for Yahweh God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. This is the very first mention of the proper name of Yahweh, Yahweh God. So now we know that was he who worked here. Well, the interesting thing, if I can find the book of John again, I don't have tabs in this Bible. I get around in it okay these days. The interesting thing here is that all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Very interesting. Now, in verse 10 of John 1, he was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came into his own, and his own received him not. That's referring to the guy you call Jesus, and I know as Yeshua. It's not John the Baptist. It's not John the Apostle. So basically what this is saying is that Yeshua, this is a testimony here. A testament to this Yeshua is also Yahweh. So with that in mind, that's how I come to the conclusion that when you say, was Jesus the Son of God, was Yahweh the Son of Yeshua the Son of God, I think no. He was God. He was Yahweh himself incarnate. Yahweh in the flesh. Very interesting here. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. Sounds like those who received him and those who believed on him. Okay, we got more to deal with on that, but let's go back to basics here. Another important thing is we know that there was no rain in those days. He hadn't caused it to rain yet on the earth. And there was no man at that particular point to till the ground, agricultural. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. Some people say that the dew watered the ground. Well, was the dew the mist? Or was that water spraying up? Just be open-minded. And Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Okay, we've got man formed of the dust of the ground, the breath of life, became a living soul. Interesting. And Yahweh planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And from there it was parted and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, or Pison. That is, it which encompasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good, and there is bdellium, and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that encompasses the whole land of Ethiopia. That's been important. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goes toward the east of Assyria, an important country, even today. And the fourth river is Euphrates. That's one we all should know. Then Yahweh took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. These are important things. Some people think that the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good, they may have all been separate trees, and they liken those to different species, different races of people too. It gets kind of odd. I think Wesley Swift is cited as doing that. There was no rain back then. That's important. Let's move on ahead. And Yahweh commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For in the day you eat thereof you shall surely die. And Yahweh God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a help match for him. And out of the ground Yahweh formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Now, in most of those plays, like, what was that, Jesus Christ Superstar? It was Eve in the play that named the animals. Well, in the Bible, it's Adam who did it. Okay, so that was falsehood there. Just an important thing. And here we have his name, Adam. And Adam gave names to all the cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmatch for him. And Yahweh God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahweh God had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her to the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall join to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Well, they were innocent. That we understand. It's an interesting saying, they shall be one flesh. Well, we know that when they have children, there's definitely one flesh that they produce. Maybe several, but it's one flesh. We also know that this has a deeper meaning as well, because not only do they share these bodies, but they share the same bionym, the biological covering. The bacteria of the skin is shared because they're in close proximity. Likewise, the bacteria and the digestive systems are also shared. So that these things are very, very, very much part of us, very much part of them, and make them a couple as well. So there's all kinds of things about the ribs and all of that. But I guess what's very important is that earlier we said he made them male and female, and here we have a different accounting. There are different words for men in the Bible. That really requires a word study, because there are different terms for different types of men, different species of men, if you will, different races of men, if you will, as well. But basically, Adam was a peculiar man. Genesis 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh God had made. And he said to the woman, indeed, Has God said you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? It's interesting. The serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, and he's able to talk. Who is this serpent? Who are these beasts of the field? Do they speak as well? Interesting questions. In other parts of the Bible, we see that they actually have speech. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which was in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. Is she referring to the tree of life or the tree of knowledge of good and evil? We just make those assumptions. Remember, there's no punctuation in the original Bible. There's no complete sentences, no paragraphs. So the way we attribute these clauses, these phrases, and how they modify each other can change the entire meaning. And the serpent said unto the woman, You shall not surely die, for God does know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, small g, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired, to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also to her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of Yahweh God, walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh God among the trees of the garden. Were trees other people? Or trees like you and I know them? And Yahweh called to Adam and said to him, Where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree whereof I commanded you that you should not eat? And the man said, The woman who you gave to me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. These could have been at different times. We don't know. And Yahweh God said to the woman, What is it that you have done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me. The serpent seduced me, and I did eat. I did partake. And Yahweh God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon your belly you shall go, and dust shall you eat all of the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. I'm going to back up here a little bit and go over this stuff just a little bit more. Some versions of the Bible it says, and your desire shall be for your husband. Okay? And he shall rule over you. I used to joke and say that they left out a couple of words here because it says, and your desire shall be to rule over your husband, and he shall rule over you. I don't know. Enmity between you and the woman, to Satan, or to the serpent, and between your seed and her seed, your children and her children. This is the war. This is what we have in the Bible. This is the evidence of the war that we have today. And this is where it began. We also know the name of this serpent, of the fallen angel. His name was Gadriel. And one day I was blogging and I needed to look up that name Gadriel because I wanted to spell it right. Turns out there's 3 different ways to say it. Remember, to spell it. There are no vowels in Paleo Hebrew. Those are added later. And I found it, and I found the spellings of it in Wikipedia, of all places. And it said Gadriel was one of the 5 leaders of the fallen angels, and he was the one that had sex with Eve. What an interesting place to find a witness to the story in the Bible. I believe we're going to find the name Gadriel in other extra biblical books as well. It had to come from somewhere. And it's interesting because we have the serpent asking Eve, and Eve doesn't exactly reply and say exactly what God had said. But we don't have a report of how that was conveyed, how the command was conveyed to Eve. We know that Adam was commanded. Maybe there was a failure in leadership. We don't understand this original sin. I was told as a little boy, it was an apple, forbidden fruit. It turns out that it wasn't an apple or a pear. It was about the pear on the ground. It was about the serpent seducing Eve and Eve accepting his invitation. So this is the fall of Adam. And to Adam he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, that's a mistake, I guess, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake. In sorrow you shall eat of it all the days of your life, of the ground. Let me back up here. This was very important. What did he say to the serpent? Because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. And upon your belly shall you go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. What did he make Adam of? Dust. So is this that he's going to be eating men all of his life? What else is made out of dust? Minerals. Modern medicine. Is that what that refers to? That he was sentencing the snake to modern medicine, to eating dust? You shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake. In sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread, till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust shall you return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all the living. Unto Adam also, to his wife did Yahweh God. Unto Adam also and to his wife did Yahweh God make coats of skins and clothe them. So we do have bloodshed in the garden. We also have bloodshed, apparently, of the loss of her virginity as well. That is a covenant. There's a bloodshed shed, as we'll see, when forming a covenant. Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. So she was mother of all of his sons and all of the serpent's sons. Unto Adam also and to his wife did Yahweh make coats of skins and clothe them. And Yahweh God said, Behold, the man has become as one of us, plural, to know good and evil. And now lest he puts his hand and takes also of the tree of life and eats and lives forever. Therefore Yahweh God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from where he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim, plural, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Banished from the garden. Banned from the garden. So there's a lot of important concepts. We can drill into it a bit. We don't know if Eve was raped. We don't know if it was an act of prostitution, because it's called the oldest profession of the world for a reason, and this is what's cited. We just don't know where that comes from. We don't have good data. What we do know is that Eve was seduced. She says she was seduced, and that she had sex with Gadriel, and that she gave birth to Cain. Genesis chapter 4, we're going to go a little further into this right now. And Adam knew his wife Eve, knowledge, carnal knowledge, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. This is a very confusing sentence, and it doesn't make much sense. What is she referring to? She's gotten a man from Yahweh? Did she engage in sex with Yahweh? Did she think Gadriel was Yahweh God? Was she deceived? As a result of being deceived, did Eve become a deceiver? Was she trying to deceive Adam? Trying to claim that Yahweh was the father of the child? Or maybe trying to claim that Adam was the father of this child? Cain. And she again bore his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of the sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahweh. And Abel he also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of the fat thereof. And Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door, and unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. I'm just going to take it that far, and I'm going to explain these verses because this stuff gets really heavy, and this is very important. And so we have what looks like some conflicts and some misunderstanding, possibly. And I'm going to give you the explanation that an older brother of mine who's been reading the Bible for about 60 years has. I think he's younger than I am. I'm not sure. I think there's 3 months of difference between us, but I'm a late bloomer. I started late. Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahweh. It was not acceptable to Yahweh. According to the old traditions, only the firstborn only the oldest son, the oldest child, could bring an offering, and he made it for the family. So here was Cain bringing an offering as the oldest son. And then Abel, he also brought of the firstborn of his flock, meaning he brought the best of his flock, the first fruits, and of the fat thereof. In other words, the best one, the healthiest one. What's Abel doing bringing an offering? I thought that was only reserved for the oldest, for the firstborn. And he's following proper form of bringing the firstborn of his flock. He's rearing animals. That's because Cain was the firstborn of the fallen angel Gadriel. They had different fathers. Abel was the firstborn of his father Adam. Both of them had Eve for their mothers. One was a hybrid, fallen angel DNA, satanic DNA. Not part of God's creation exactly, certainly not what he intended. And what was the other one? He was all Adamic DNA from his mother and his father. He was pure Adamic. Remember, God said he loved it the way he created it. This was a violation. Cain became angry because his sacrifice was not acceptable to God. And he murdered his half-brother Abel. Now, there's more to the story, possibly, but it's not right here in the Bible. There's a book written by Pastor Daniel Lee Gaiman. Dan Gaiman wrote a book called The Two Seeds of Genesis 3:15. He refers to these passages and the fact that you have two different bloodlines that are present, and there's enmity between them. And that, folks, is where the war we have today came from. I'll give you some things that will let you know we might have a better record of it going further back, but that's what we're given here in the book. That's what we have witness of in the Bible. And Cain actually had the gall, that's a pretty big, important word, the gall to say to Yahweh, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And Yahweh said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. Now, folks, I had a man that I wanted to produce my shows. He's a retired police officer. I met him at the radio station. He's extremely talented, but he's also extremely biased. He does not like the Bible. He hates organized religions. He says that he believes totally in the Sumerian texts and the Sumerian stories, which aren't too far from what we have in the Bible. And of course, he considers this a fraud, an imitation of the original Sumerian stories. He's got grounds to call that, but I think the Bible is the same encoded, brought to us and given to us in this form. Now, when Yahweh says, the voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground, I want you to realize how important that blood is. That DNA encodes everything. It's a very incredible memory system. You wonder why you remember things that you didn't live. You wonder why you have hauntings of old times. Well, where did you get that DNA from? A lot of it you got from your parents. You didn't get it all from there, in case you're wondering. You get a lot of it from the earth too. So the earth makes a contribution as well. So we are indeed earthlings, fair and proper. We do rely upon Mother Earth. Mother Earth we're relying upon for these bodies, for the biome that surrounds our bodies, the protective bacteria, the healthy bacteria that we host, that provides a lot of things for us, including genes for us. Good bacteria, good genes. But this to me is evidence of what my police officer friend, who I will forward this video to in hopes that he might listen all the way to the end, because there's probably more blessings at the end of these than the beginning. But this is evidence that we are indeed in a computer program. We're living in the matrix, like my friend says. He told me we're living in the matrix, that we're all in this computer program. He was trying to make a big point of that, and he was actually quite correct. And I find support for that in the Bible. I also find support of that outside of the Bible. When Yogi Bhajan, Sri Singh Sahib, told us that he read the Akashic record, he also read the ancient literature. And what's that written in? Akkadian. What's the oldest language on the earth? Akkadian. What was Akkadian? Vertical lines, slashes, zeros and ones. It was a binary language. It was computer language. And I'm going to tell you, if you ever see some weird-looking alien, some beast you can't recognize, and it starts clicking away at you, to be careful, because you might be dealing with one of the earlier inhabitants. Might not be safe. I don't think it's safe. I don't really know. But what I'm getting at is that we all record everything that we do. And when we die, we also see the richest movie you've ever seen in your life with all the details. I mean serious details, including every leaf that's on the tree from your childhood scenes. It all gets played back for you, including the bad stuff that happened to you and the bad stuff that you yourself did. I don't know which is going to be harder to watch and to witness. I just hope I'm in a nice protective space when that occurs. And I believe that what they're trying to do is alter our DNA. In my Psychology 101 text, the hardback, there was a study which has since been removed from the textbooks, I believe, because I had collected those 101 textbooks. I got about 3 different ones. And it was a study of a one-celled creature called a planaria, a one-celled worm. And the basic experiment was, is it inherited or is it learned? Is it biology, genetics, or is it the environment? They took these one-celled planaria and they trained them to dance counterclockwise in the presence of the light they shined upon them. So these planaria would dance in sequence counterclockwise. And then they did another aspect of the experiment, which I almost don't want to tell you because it lines up with cannibalism if you extend it that far. They took these planaria that were mature and that had been trained and had learned how to dance in the light, and they emaciated them. They ground up their bodies. They killed them and they ground up the bodies. And they took those bodies and they fed them to juvenile planaria that had not been trained and hadn't had the experience at all. And then the juvenile planaria ate the bodies of the adults. And they shined the light on these planaria. And they indeed danced in the light counterclockwise. So we know that some memory is inherited. And in case you're wondering, I think that intelligence is inherited from our mothers. And I believe that our characters are inherited from our fathers and what they did in their lives. We also inherit some other things from mother and father. They put the simian virus 40 in the original polio Salk vaccine. And unfortunately, simian virus 40 in human bodies ends up causing cancer. And that gets passed on through father's male semen, through the man's DNA. So our children will also have simian virus 40 in them, and that's making them more susceptible to cancers. That's one of the horrible, ugly truths about the vaccinations. And that Salk vaccine is supposed to be the gold standard. I'll have more to say about that another time. But let's just let it rest at there, because I don't want to wear out my welcome. I don't need to get censored because of the truth. The truth isn't all beautiful, but it's not all ugly either. I mean, look at the beauty of this world. Think about what you have going on today. You're sitting there in relative peace and quiet. You're able to listen to me. You can pick up the Bible and read. A lot of people in other countries can't even read. They don't have access to Bibles, or it's as legal as hell for them to even get together and talk about this stuff. In a lot of countries, when they convert to your Christianity or the way, my faith of our fathers, they're killed. I have a lot of friends from overseas I've lost touch with. I hope they're okay today. The next part of Genesis gets into some wild stories. I promise you, you got to stay tuned for it. Get your Bibles. If you can't get it on the website, or if you're not sure I'm getting credit for it, and you're not sure you're getting the best price, and remember the price ends with 2 7s, 77, that call them up. Tell them you want the Dr. Kent Show referral, the special. Okay? Ask him what he has. Order your Bible up. The price is never going to be cheaper than it is right now. May Yahweh bless.